This morning, I want to share with you about wisdom. We think sometimes that age comes with wisdom, and it doesn't always happen that way because some of y'all aren't as wise as you think you are, and some of you are older than you think you are. I have a couple of stories. One is, look, it hit me too. About 2 months ago, Kai had met a guy, and the more he described him, I'm like, I think I know that guy. I think he's about my age, and so I'm thinking through how I could tell Kai, like, okay, is he this guy or is he this guy? And so finally I said, is he a young guy? Kai said, no, he's about your age. I still have nightmares about that statement. And then back in May, you guys were so graceful enough to send us on a cruise, Amy and I. So we got away in May, and so we're just floating through the Gulf of America, and we're hanging out in the hot tub. And there's about 3 or 4 couples in there. So we kind of started a conversation. Where y'all from? Where y'all from? And so we were just chatting about that. And one guy says, hey, I'm from Corpus Christi. I work at Flint Hills Refinery. And I knew Flint Hills because back in 2001, when the planes hit the World Trade Center, I was at that unit. I was at that plant. It was actually called Coke back then, Coke Refinery, Koch. And so I was at that plant when 9/11 happened, and that was a lot of fun, being away from home, couldn't go home. It was a whole thing. And so we're in this hot tub, and I'm thinking, I wonder if this guy, maybe he's been working there a long time. Maybe he was there that same day, and we would have been in the plant together. How cool would that be? We're in the middle of the Gulf, and now we got 2 guys that were the same place, same time. And so I said, hey man, I was there for 9/11. I was in that plant, and I said, were you working there back then? He said, no, I was in 2nd grade. That's rough right there, all right? I didn't say anything for the rest of the trip. I just nodded at everybody. You know when you think you're the person the same age as the people in the room and you find out real quick that you're not? So wisdom and age don't always go together, but we need wisdom. So today I want to talk about wisdom, and wisdom is important. In fact, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3 says this about wisdom, and really about the Proverbs. It says their purpose, Proverbs, the purpose of the Proverbs, which is a book of wisdom. So if you want some wisdom, read Proverbs. The purpose is to teach people how to live disciplined and successful lives and to help them do what is right, what is just, and what is fair. The world needs some Proverbs. The world needs some wisdom. You in this room, some of us in this room need some wisdom to live right, just, and fair lives. God called us to live a life full of wisdom. Wisdom does a couple things. It actually helps us live life better. But then look at a few verses later, verses 22 and 23. Look at what it says. It says, this is what wisdom, the Bible says wisdom cries out, okay? So wisdom's in the street crying out. In fact, Proverbs calls wisdom a female. It says she's in the street, she's crying out. We know that wisdom is female just for obvious reasons. And if you don't believe me, just think about this. When women get together and have fun, they're getting pedis and manicures, and they're getting their hair did, and they're getting some coffee, and they're sitting in an air-conditioned building watching a movie. What happens when dudes get together and have fun? We soup up a 0-ton lawnmower and see how far we can ride a wheelie on it, all right? So I would say that wisdom is probably female. Here's another reason why we know it's female. The Bible, not the Bible, the world says that diamonds are a woman's best friend, right? Just precious and valuable and beautiful, and people, they ice themselves out, if you want to call it that, with their diamonds. A man's best friend is a dog, all right? So wisdom is definitely female, but it says that she cries out, and this is the things that she says. How long will you simpletons, will you insist on being simple-minded? How long will you mockers relish in mocking? How long will you fools hate knowledge? What she's saying is, how long are you going to stay stuck where you are? See, wisdom helps get us unstuck. And if you're not careful, you're going to stay stuck where you are. You need some wisdom to help get you unstuck. And so that's very important. Look at the next verse, verse 23. This is what she says, come and listen to my counsel, and I will share my heart with you, and I will make you wise. Now, we need to live lives of wisdom. We need wisdom in our life more than we can even imagine or fathom. In fact, I'll say it like this, wisdom is a requirement for kingdom living. You want to live kingdom living? You want to live a life that honors God? You need to live a life of wisdom. We cannot live fruitful lives for God and not have wisdom in our life. Because not having wisdom is going to make you say some dumb things. It's going to make you start backing yourself into a corner. You get between a rock and a hard place a whole lot. So we got to have wisdom for kingdom living. Ephesians says it like this. Let's look at Ephesians chapter 5. It says, so be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those that are wise. Very clearly says, if you're going to live a life of wisdom. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. Listen, you need wisdom to walk in the steps of the Spirit. The world is very sneaky. The world will slip some things into your home that you don't even know is happening. The world will make you think that there's some things you can have and get a hold of that's going to help you in your spiritual walk. Listen, I'm here to tell you today, a Ouija board ain't going to help you get closer to the Lord. It's going to be the opposite. You need some wisdom. Potions aren't going to help you get closer to the Lord, except for Young Living. That's different. Y'all, we need wisdom. Crystals. Some people take crystals and it's going to help them. The Lord's going to say, no, you're putting faith in the wrong thing. What about this? What about Ouija boards and crystals? And sometimes people will get, what do they call it, dream catchers? Well, that's just a little piece of yarn in my wrist hanging in my window. Well, if you have faith in that to stop demons and nightmares, you're putting faith in the wrong thing. Y'all, we need wisdom to have a fruitful kingdom life. And if we're going to talk about wisdom and get to wisdom, we're going to talk about it. Let's talk about the wisest person to ever live. So if you have your Bibles, flip to 1 Kings chapter 3. 1 Kings 3 is in the Old Testament, not too far past Genesis and Exodus. But 1 Kings chapter 3, it tells the story of Solomon. And so we're going to learn some things from Solomon today about wisdom that will hopefully help us have more wisdom in our lives. It'll be on the screen. If you have your phones or your Bibles, like I said, flip there. It's in 1 Kings chapter 3, and we're going to start in verse 3, and we'll go through verse 15. It says, Solomon loved the Lord and followed all the decrees of his father David, except that Solomon too offered sacrifices and burnt incense at the local places of worship. The most important of these places of worship was at Gibeon. So the king went there and sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. That night the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream and said, what do you want? Ask and I will give it to you. Solomon replied, you showed great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true and faithful to you. And you have continued to show this great faithful love to him by giving him a son to sit on his throne. Now, O Lord my God, you have made me king instead of my father David, but I am like a little child who doesn't know his way around. And here I am in the midst of your own people, a nation so great and numerous that cannot be counted. Give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well and know the difference between right and wrong. For who by himself is able to govern a great people of yours? The Lord was pleased that Solomon would ask for wisdom. So God replied, because you have asked for wisdom in governing my people with justice and not have asked for long life or wealth or death of your enemies, I will give you what you have asked for. I will give you a wise and understanding heart, such that no one else has ever or will ever have. And I'll also give you what you did not ask for, riches and fame. No other king in all the world will be compared to you in the rest of your life. And if you follow me and obey my decrees and my commandments as your father David did, I will give you a long life. Then Solomon woke up, realized it had been a dream. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the Lord and the ark of the Lord's covenant, where he sacrificed burnt offerings and peace offerings. And he invited all his officials to a great banquet. Now, this is a great story for us to learn on how to unlock wisdom. In fact, let me give you 5 traits this morning, 5 traits that will unlock divine wisdom. If you're taking notes, write that down. 5 traits that will help you unlock divine wisdom. We see it right here in scriptures that Solomon had, and we're actually going to see it in verses 3 through 9. They're just all compact. They're all right there. 5 traits that help us unlock divine wisdom. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't think you need wisdom, you probably need it worse than you think you do. If you think you know it all, you're really going to be in trouble. We need wisdom, not just wisdom, but divine wisdom. So 5 traits that's going to help us unlock it. Here's number 1, a spirit of sacrifice. A spirit of sacrifice. By the way, let me just tell you this morning that this was what unlocked the rest of the traits. This was what unlocked this is what got God's attention. This was the first trait. And let me just tell you, if you're going to start somewhere, start here. A spirit of sacrifice. When you have a spirit of sacrifice, you make your life about other people. And Solomon did that. He had a spirit of sacrifice. Look at verse 3. Solomon loved the Lord and followed his decree of his father with David, except, somebody throw me a water. I thought I had one up here, but I think I drank it all. I don't know if that's mine or not. COVID's going around. I don't care. Chunk it up here. I got it, Eric. Thank you, though. I'm sorry. Thought you was going to throw it at me. Thank y'all. The times are changing, Claire. Did you know? I'll never look at gays the same again. I'm sorry. Let me get sidetracked. But it says that he offered these burnt offerings. He followed him, and he actually had worship in local places of worship. He actually burned incense there. The most important of these places was this place called Gibeon. So the king went there and sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. Let me just tell you real quick why Gibeon was important. Gibeon, actually, they tricked Israel into making a covenant with them years before because they didn't want Israel to take them over because they knew that God was with Israel. And so they tricked them to make them think they were from a far land when they really weren't. And because they had this treaty, so they made them woodcutters and water carriers. And the Bible says them, I think it's in 1 Chronicles, it says that they were mighty warriors. So Gibeon was a place where they had mighty warriors, strong men. So this is where he went to worship, and then he sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. Now, the way the context is written, it was in one day. He offered 1,000 offerings, burnt offerings in one day. Y'all, I did the math on that. If you did it in 24 hours on the dot, that's one every 86 seconds. That's a lot of meat. It's a lot of ribeyes right there. Every 86 seconds, they made another sacrifice, which is why I'm saying Gibeon was so important, because they had strong men. Who knows how many people they had to have help them do this. So just to give us an idea of what that looks like to sacrifice 1,000 offerings, I was going to get Turk to bring 1,000 chickens in here and let the bloodbath begin. I could use a wing right now, you know what I'm saying? I want to think about that. In one day, he sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. He had a spirit of sacrifice. And let me just tell you, it wasn't just that he sacrificed, it was his attitude behind it. Because here's what I know about sacrifice. A sacrifice isn't just what you give, but how you give it. See, I know people who give stuff reluctantly. They'll help out, but they're just like, I don't really agree with this. I'm gonna go ahead and help you. They kind of have an attitude about it. Let me just say, if you give to WRC and you do it with that attitude, just keep it. Really, I'm just telling you, just keep it. That's not a sacrificial spirit. So Solomon had this sacrificial spirit, and a sacrifice is not what you give, but how you give it. But here's what I want you to see. That night, he sacrificed 1,000 offerings, and the Bible says that night, I put it in red so you can see that. That night. What night? The night after he sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. And then he says, what do you want? Can you imagine the God of the universe? Of so many billions of stars, they can't even count them all. And he comes to you and says, hey, what do you want? You know, my parents said, hey, what do you want for your birthday when I was 16? I want a pickup truck. So I get a Matchbox car about that big. But God would actually give you, if you said, what do you want? And I'll give it to you. But listen, God could trust, here's a word for you this morning. This is fresh. This just came to me. God could trust Solomon with that question. Let me ask you this. Can he trust you with this question? Can God trust you with this question? What do you want? Ask anything you want and I'll give it to you. Could he trust you with that question? I don't know. I mean, there are moments I think he could trust me, but there are moments I'm not so sure. So we have to have a spirit of sacrifice. Here's the second thing that he had that God, I think, loved about Solomon is he had an attitude of gratitude. Solomon was so grateful to be in the place that he did not take for granted where he was at. Y'all, you ever been around any ungrateful people in your life? That's fun, ain't it? Just never happy, just think they're owed everything. Let me just tell you this morning, especially in the church, when entitlement walks in the front door, gratitude walks out the back. You think you're entitled to some stuff? Solomon knew he was so grateful. And it wasn't just because he was in the bloodline of David. Solomon knew that God could have chose anybody, but he picked Solomon. Solomon knew that God made a choice for him. And he was grateful for it. He had an attitude of gratitude. Look what he says in verse 6. Solomon replied, you showed great and faithful love to your servant, my father David, because he was honest and true. And you continue to show that same And you continue to show this great and faithful love to him today as I sit on his throne. Y'all, gratitude is so important, and lack of it is, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to show you a verse in Romans here in just a second. The lack of gratitude is a scary place to be. When you're not thankful for things, I try to be grateful. I really do. And there's some things I probably miss on, or you guys have blessed us with, and I haven't said thank you the way I need to. Let me just say thank you. That trip on that cruise that we took, we're so grateful for that. That was a refreshing time for us. We've had people show up at our house and do things for us. We have 1 year for past appreciation. You guys gave us doors, like a door. Yeah, they're amazing, bro. They got the little blinds that they're all inside. You just slide and they just be flipping. If you pull it down, they just slide up. And you ain't gotta dust them or nothing. I'm grateful for that. You guys don't know how grateful I am to be standing on this stage in front of you today. I'm very grateful. I'm very, very grateful. And I hope that you have an attitude of gratitude, because I'm gonna tell you, God will open up the doors of wisdom. Look at what it says in Romans 1:22, talking about people. About the verse before this says that they knew God. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him nor gave thanks to him. But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. And watch this, although they claimed to be wise, they became fools. Now he ties fools and being wise to gratitude and lack of gratitude. I hope that you have an attitude. I hope that you're grateful for what God's done for you. I hope that you're grateful that you live in the greatest country in the world. We serve the risen King, the only King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Y'all, gratitude will put you on the right path to wisdom. How long has it been since you've been grateful? How long has it been? When's the last time you picked up the phone and called your mom just to thank them for the meals that they cooked? I'm going to tell you don't realize how much a parent goes through till you become a parent. And then you really realize what your parents did for you. And my parents sacrificed so much for us growing up. I'm so grateful for my parents. I'm grateful for my wife and my kids and my church family. And I'm really grateful for my grandkids. Come on. It's a different level of gratitude than grandkids. I'd die for any of my kids, but I'd kill somebody for my grandkids. You know what I'm saying? There's a different kind of love. I can't explain it. I really can't. Until you become one, you can't either. But I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful. I'm thankful that I get to live in the greatest country in America, in the world. I'm thankful that I get to live in the greatest state in America. Yeah, two of y'all like Louisiana. Y'all, have an attitude of gratitude. It'll put you on the path to wisdom. Here's number 3, a habit of honesty. Have a habit of being honest. And let me just say this. Let me take another step and say, be honest with yourself. Self-awareness is so crucial to gaining wisdom. Because here's what I know. People that think they know it all never look for the right answer. People think that they know everything. They won't be seeking wisdom. They don't think they need it. So, but when you know where you are and you know what you lack and you know you've never, look, I've never pastored this many people before. And 12 years ago, I never pastored anybody. Y'all, I'm real honest with myself. I don't sometimes know what I'm doing. In fact, probably more, it would scare you the amount of times I don't know what I'm doing. You should be terrified right now. But I know I don't know what I'm doing. You ever been around somebody that didn't know what they were doing, but they thought they knew everything? Don't ever ride with them, I'll tell you that right now. So we have to be honest with ourselves. Inward honesty is so, so important. Look at what he says in verse 7. He says, "O Lord my God, you have made me king instead of my father, but I am like a little child who doesn't even know his way around." He was real. Listen, Solomon got to the point, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I need wisdom because I don't know what in the world to do. I don't know what to do about these situations. I mean, can you imagine leading all of Israel, leading Israel in a way that honors God? He got real. He's like, look, I'm just a little kid. I need some help here. I need some help. Y'all, being real about what you know is so important. In fact, it actually creates an authenticity about you that people are drawn to. Be authentic. Don't fake like you know things that you really don't know. That will get you in trouble every single time. I'm gonna give you a word this morning. I hope you'll write this down. Always being real is far better than always being right. Always being real is far better than always being right. You'll attract people if you're always real. You'll repel people if you think you're always right. We need to be real about where we are and who we are. I love Psalms 51:6. It says this: behold, you desire the truth, talking to the Lord, in the innermost being. In other words, in inward honesty. And in the hidden part of my heart, watch this, you will make me know wisdom. When I get real about what I know and what I don't know, you will make me know wisdom. That's a word right there. When you get real, now, I'm not telling you to go to work tomorrow and tell your boss you've been lying for the last 5 years. You don't know that program, all right? But maybe you need to. I mean, you might be on unemployment. I don't know. But being real, I'm telling you, when you get real, you're going to attract some people that you haven't been attracting. You've been repelling people because you think you know it all. Listen, people that think they know everything are very obnoxious to those of us who actually do. That was a joke. That was a joke. Be real. Have a habit of honesty, and not just with other people, but with yourself as well. That's integrity, knowing where you are and what you know and what you don't know. Here's number 4. He had a posture of humility. He had a posture of humility. Solomon was so humble. He was so humbled by the fact that he became king. Because I want to tell you, back then it was expected. The king's son became king. But he was so humbled. And I'm going to tell you, some of you know this, some of you may not. Solomon is David's son, but you know who his mother was? Bathsheba. David's father murdered a guy and committed adultery, and that's how he was born. Solomon was humbled by who he really was. He knew where he came from. He was very humble, but that God would actually pick him. Look what he says in verse 8. Here I am in the midst of your own chosen people, a nation so great and numerous that they cannot be counted. He was humbled by the fact that he was going to be leading such a great number of people. If you would have told me 5 years ago that there would be 700 people showing up to WRC on a Sunday morning, I said, you're crazy. First of all, I don't know what to do with 700 people. And second of all, you're crazy. They want to come here. They want to come hear me. I don't know what I'm doing. And some of you know this story, but 12 years ago, we started WRC. I said, I need a podium and 5 seats. Because I have a wife and 3 kids, and my mom might come. Like, I'm telling you. And now there's probably a level of a lack of assurance or something like that probably held me back some. And I'm just being real with you, man. I just didn't think anybody, Lord, how are you using me? I don't even know what I'm doing half the time. Let me just tell you, that's the people that God will use. He don't use know-it-alls. He uses those that fall to their feet and say, God, I don't know what I'm doing. Look at Proverbs 11:2. It says, pride leads to disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. You want wisdom? Get humble. Have a posture of humility. I'm telling you, these 5 things, if you'll do these 5 things, God will rush in and give you wisdom. In fact, the Bible says if we want wisdom, we ask, he'll give it to us. But I'm going to tell you, you will accelerate it if you'll have these attitudes, these traits, these 5 traits to unlock divine wisdom. Unlock divine wisdom, and you will see what God does. Here's the 5th one, a heart of understanding. A heart of understanding. We talked about this in prayer this morning, go figure. We talked about having compassion for people. But the Lord has shown me that compassion starts with understanding. I can't have compassion for you until I understand where you're coming from. We have people that come in these doors all during the week, and they need something, and they want something. It's an emergency, and somebody's did something to them, and I don't know how many of them are actually true. We help a lot of people. But we don't always know. But I say, Lord, give me understanding. Help me understand what they're going through. And I'm going to tell you, it'll unlock something in you that you've never had before. Have a heart of understanding. That's what he prays. Look what he prays in verse 9. It says, give me an understanding heart so that. It says, give me an understanding heart so that I can govern your people well. For who by himself can govern this great people of yours? Y'all, understanding will accelerate your compassion. An understanding heart will accelerate your compassion. No one was more understanding in the Bible than Jesus. Jesus was so understanding of people. He knew their hearts. He knew their past. He knew where they were coming from. He knew their heartaches. He knew their addictions. He knew what they were coming from. And therefore, he had compassion. In fact, Matthew 9:36 says this, talking about Jesus, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were confused and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. He had an understanding. He understood where they were coming from. He put himself in their position and had compassion on them. When's the last time you had a compassionate act in your life? When's the last time you had compassion on somebody that you saw in the store or somebody in your home or somebody at your job? You're so quick to judge them. You put your hand, you stiff arm them spiritually and go, look, stay over there. You're a problem. You're an issue. I heard a counselor say one time, don't ever ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. Don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain. Where did the pain? Well, the addiction came from a pain somewhere. Have compassion, have an understanding heart, and watch what God does. I'm gonna ask you a question this morning. I hope that you have an answer to one of these. If you could grow in just one of these this week, which would it be? Be more sacrificial, be more grateful, be more honest, be more humble, or be more compassionate. Some of you go, I need to work on all of them. I need to work on all of them. That's okay too. Start somewhere. Start with a spirit of sacrifice and watch where God takes you in that moment. Which one are you lacking in? Hope that you be honest with yourself this morning. Just be real. Say, I need help in all of them. I need help in this area. I need to be more compassionate. I need to be more humble. I don't know everything. I need some wisdom in my life. And watch God work in and through you.